I guess I'll do a countdown for the timer.
Yes, please.
Alright. 3, 2, 1, go. Sup everyone, this is Ocarina Time in under 25 minutes. I could tell from the chat earlier that some of you have not seen it before, so if you haven't seen it before, then your mind's going to be blown a bit, which is pretty cool. If you have seen it before, then wish me luck, and I hope I do a good job at this. This game pretty much has gone through it's gone through a lot to bring the time down so low. There's actually like a really big story behind it, and I'm kind of interested in like making a video explaining like how all these discoveries were found. But definitely there's been a ton of work put into this game, and finally earlier this year, 2012, it was discovered how to beat the game in under a half hour. And this run will be under 25 minutes, assuming I don't make any huge blunders. I've been practicing, so we'll see how we do here. Yeah, so back in like 2005, this game was pretty much glitchless, except for a couple things, like duplicating a bottle. Like very simple old glitches, like you know, swordless Link. You know, you save your game after you lose your sword, and then you can do some silly glitches or whatever. But it wasn't like speedrun viable stuff. And then after a while, people started digging really deep. A lot of really cool people appeared and started finding cool stuff. I'd like to give shoutouts to Kazooie from Finland for finding pretty much most like the most big breaks in this game, but that was a long time ago, and the game has kept evolving until now. And this is pretty much, I feel like Ocarina of Time has finally been quote-unquote solved. Like, this is the fastest route. So after years of work, this is kind of like what we've come up with as the fastest ultimate way to beat the game from beginning to end. And so here we go, waking up in Link's house. The text is Japanese because it's a little bit faster than English, and we've just sort of like become accustomed to using Japanese text for Zelda games. Everything I'm doing works on the US version as well. It's not version exclusive. So you could bust out your N64 right now and do everything that I do. Alright. So, I'm gonna collect some rupees and get the sword. It's possible to beat the game without collecting the Kokiri sword. There are actually many ways to beat this game. Many different glitchy ways to go through it, however you wish. And because of that, there's like a lot of different kind of subcategories. You can make as many as like 12 different categories for this game for speedrunning. There's sort of 3 main ones though. The 3 main ones are any %, which means beat the game as fast as possible. That's what you're watching right now. There's also MST, which stands for Medallion Stones Trials. That run beats all the dungeons in the game. And there's also 100%, which, as you can imagine, collects, you know, all 100 gold Skulltulas, gets all 20 hearts, gets all upgrades. So yeah. So I got the sword, and I'm collecting rupees for the shield, but I won't be buying it yet. What I'm going to be doing is leaving through the Lost Woods. And I'm going to be doing this thing called the Forest Escape, in which you leave the forest early. There's actually several different forest escape methods. Back in 2007, I found the first one, which was a lot harder than the one now. It's actually kind of funny how the harder ones got found first, and then they got easier. So, anyway, in the Lost Woods over here, you're supposed to have the silver scale, to dive deep to get to this warp over here that takes you to Zora's River. I'm trying to get an angle right there by walking towards a certain line on the wall. I'm not sure if I did it correctly. Okay, I was just very slightly off, but there's a cool backup strat. So by waiting on here and then waiting till Navi starts talking to me, I can talk to Navi, and the jump slash, it pushes you backwards, and if you interrupt that with Navi, then you talk to Navi and you fall through the water, because the collision for the water isn't active when you have a text box on the screen. So you just fall to the bottom. So now I'm in Zora's River. I'll be collecting the rest of the rupees for the Deku shield here. And I do need a shield, it's very important. But where I'm heading right now is going down the river to Hyrule Field, and then I'll be heading to Kakariko Village. Alright. Some of you may be familiar with the trick called Castle Before Night, in which you skip the owl, and then you can make it to Hyrule Castle before it turns night. I am going to be attempting the same trick, but I don't need to pull it off. If I miss it, it's okay. Oh, almost talked to the owl. I dropped it at the last second, but I was outside of the trigger. Okay, so right there, what I did was I did a jump slash at the fence, which got me a lot of backwards momentum. Then I hit the water and held the control stick at a really specific angle. And then when you leave water with a lot of speed and you're holding the control stick at a very specific angle, it keeps the speed on land. And then if you target, it locks the speed, so you can keep sliding backwards. And not only are you going really fast, but while you're doing that, the game considers Link to be like kind of busy, so you can go right past the owl without talking to the owl. So that trick is required if I wanted to go to Kakariko, where I am now, and then go over to the castle. However, I'm not going to be going to the castle, so it wasn't necessary that I pulled that off, but it did save some good time, because I didn't have to talk to the owl. As you can see right now, I'm collecting all the cocos to get the bottle. The bottle is pretty famously one of the most busted items in Ocarina of Time. There's a lot of glitches involving the bottle, and I'll be using a glitch later on. And this is the fastest bottle to get. Pretty good first part. The strats for collecting these cocos have been like slowly evolved over a long period of time as people got better at it. Oh, this one's way up here. Alright, these are the last three now. So there's my bottle. And over here there's a rock. Under the rock are some bugs. I'll be getting those as well. I'll catch them in my bottle. And now I want to go back to Link's house. Well, back to the forest rather. And the fastest way is to save the game and then reset the console. Because when you're in the overworld as Child Link, when you save the game, it brings you back to Link's house. So that's faster than going back across Hyrule Field. As Adult Link, it takes you to the Temple of Time. Alright, so I'm gonna go buy my shield now. So you need the sword and shield for Mido. However, I want a sword and a shield anyway. Shield is really useful for a lot of stuff. And the sword, you know, is really useful for a lot of stuff as well. So it's no problem getting those items. It's not just to pass him. There is a way to actually skip talking to him, but it's really, really hard and it barely saves any time. Even the current record for this game doesn't do it, but the tool-assisted run does do it. So it is theoretically faster, but not for a human at this point in time. We'll see if that ever changes, if the record gets even lower. Okay, so we're heading into the first dungeon, Deku Tree. So this dungeon, believe it or not, it's actually really pro. There's a lot of really difficult things you can do, and I'll be trying them, and I have backup strats in case I screw up, but they are extremely difficult, so we'll see. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to try to do a quick draw right here. Okay, I missed it, but you can do a jump slash without slashing by pressing A on the right frame, but I kind of missed it. So now I'm going to pull out this stick as I'm climbing the ladder. That skips the vine text, so I don't have to listen to Navi tell me about the vines. There's more vine text up here. To avoid this vine text, I'll backflip onto the treasure chest that has the map and then jump up to the vines. So now I gotta watch out for these wall sculptulas. Skullwaltulas? I don't know what the proper name is for them. Okay. So this part coming up is really tricky. I'm gonna jump down, break the web, and then try to get to the basement 1 ledge like this, and side hop now, and jump slash now. Okay, I got it. So now I actually was able to land on that ledge, which skips the entire basement of the tree. And now I'm going to do something called flame storage. Oh, I missed it. Uh-oh. I'll have to come back for the... Darn it. Okay, I missed that. I'll have to burn that on my second time down. I need to be able to burn that web. And what you just saw, that was pretty fast, and it might have been confusing. So what I tried to do was detach my sword's hitbox on the torch in order to get fire when I next pulled the stick. Unfortunately, it was a little bit off, so when I pulled the stick, it wasn't on fire and it didn't break the web. However, it still let me through the web even without burning it, because I think it's because so much stuff is still loaded from the top of the tree that you can just go right through it. But the second time I come down here, because I have to come down here again, it will be solid and I'm going to have to burn it. So unfortunately I lost a little bit of time there. Okay, so Goma fight. I can do this in one cycle, and I also need to die at the same time that I kill the boss. So a lot has to happen right here. Okay, got it. So what happened right there was I threw a Deku Nut, and then when I did a crouch stab, it did a ton of damage because it carries over the same damage of your last attack. And I did a Deku Stick Jump Slash, which does 4 damage, and Goma has 10 health. So I did that does 4 damage. Then I threw another Deku Nut while Goma was getting damaged, and that creates the stun animation all over again for some reason. It's like they didn't check that properly. But by doing that, I was able to get an extra long stun. Then I did another crouch stab for another 4 damage, and then I did a really close jump slash, which let me kill Goma and die at the same time. So now, this is called a mega side hop. That lets me get back onto that ledge. And as you can see, the web is still there, so I'm going to try to do flame storage again right here. Okay, I think I got it that time. Yeah, so you see, when I pulled out the stick, it was on fire, because I detached the hitbox of the sword. Alright, so now we're heading over here, back to where I just was. Okay, so the reason I had to die was because that stone slab that closed had to be open so that I could reach the door that I just came through, and you'll see what I mean in a second. So this is where the bugs come in. I dropped the bugs, and I'm going to pick them back up so they're in Link's hand. So now when I backflip and I press the bottle of bugs, and then I press another item, he'll play it like an ocarina. So now I'm going to line Link up with that texture on the wall, and do a specific series of movement. So that let me do the glitch on the same frame that I entered the blue warp. So now what I'm going to do is do a specific movement through this tunnel that will make it so the blue warp is on the correct frame, and when I leave through the door, it'll try to load a cutscene, but also put me back in the tree. And what that does is it adds the value 4 to the basement of the tree, which warps me entirely somewhere else. So it put me into Ganon's castle at the end of the game. This is after Ganondorf has been killed. So now Ganondorf's dead, and we're at the end of the game. And yeah, so we're gonna keep going. The reason that works, like I said, it tried to load a cutscene and also a location. And the way it handles cutscenes is it like simply adds a certain value to the location. So like it tried to put me in the forest and then add a certain value, and that would keep me in the forest, but it would, instead of just putting me in the forest, it would load a cutscene in the forest. So what actually happened was it loaded the basement of the Deku Tree, and that doesn't have a cutscene, so when it added the value for the cutscene, it like kind of overflowed past the basement of the tree and went to the next part of the game. And the order for all the entrances in the game are sort of in like a kind of a random order, and it just so happens that part of Ganon's tower collapsing is after the basement of the Deku Tree. So by loading a cutscene in the basement of the Deku Tree, it overflowed to here, and now we're here. So yeah, this took many years to discover, more than a decade of a lot of glitch hunting. There's someone named Akrite who almost found this years ago. He actually tried to do this in the Forest Temple, but because the Forest Temple takes you directly to the Chamber of Sages, it was kind of a problem, because it always takes you to the Chamber of Sages, it doesn't do the thing where it adds the value of the cutscene, because there's always like a cutscene in the Chamber of Sages. So it didn't create a wrong warp when he did it, and it simply skipped a cutscene. So for a couple of years we knew you could skip the Forest Temple cutscene, but we didn't know that there's potential for this wrong warp thing. So yeah, like before this was found, we all used to joke like, man, one day we'll wrong warp into the credits or something, and then we did it. Like, you can actually wrong warp directly into the game's credits, but it's slower than doing this because that requires even further setup, and you have to be Adult Link and stuff. But this warp conveniently works out really wonderfully, just because like the location of the basement of the tree and Ganon's tower in the game's like in just the way the game is. So what I just did is called the infinite sword glitch. You can see my stick is glowing white. There's a hitbox that's just constantly out, and it's doing full damage every frame. So all I have to do is walk into this guy and he'll just get completely decimated. It's also worth noting that the Deku Stick does the same damage as the Master Sword. I guess they did it like that because sticks were scarce, like you use them and they break. But you can take a lot of advantage of that. It's also worth noting that if I touch one of the burning rocks on the floor, my game will crash because my shield will burn, and the object for a burned shield is not like in the game right now. It's like not like loaded or something. So if I burned my shield here, the game would crash. So I have to be kind of careful where I walk, like right here. Like if I touch one of those rocks on the floor, the falling ones don't matter because they don't burn your shield, but the ones on the floor would crash my game by touching them.
Cosmo, don't forget to tell me when to hit the timer.
Yeah, I'll let you know. I like being a little bit cautious when there's burning rocks on the ground. So yeah, Super Time Paradox, Adult Zelda with Child Link and everything. It's actually really convenient that you end up just after Ganondorf is defeated, because Ganondorf requires light arrows to be killed. And for many years, Ganondorf was the bottleneck. You needed magic to shoot light arrows, you needed a quiver, you needed arrows, and that was like a lot of items that you needed. Like for magic, you needed the lullaby, so you had to get the lullaby, you had to get magic, you had to get light arrows. You know, it's like a lot of stuff you needed just to get past Ganondorf. And this warp takes you just past Ganondorf, so you don't need any of those items. If, for example, Ganon required light arrows to kill, then this would be really interesting, but you wouldn't be able to complete the game. But thankfully, Ganon only needs the Master Sword, And while I don't have the Master Sword yet, it does get knocked out of my hand during the final battle, so I can pick it up and use it. Also, you know, the Deku Stick does the same damage as the Master Sword, and I'll be using that on Ganon at the first part. The final fight is actually kind of scary. That glitch I was talking about, the infinite sword glitch where I had the hitbox active the entire time, I have to do that again, and it's quite tricky to do here. It's kind of awkward. I have to do a crouch stab with the stick, so I have to be holding R and then press, well I use Z, so I hold R, press Z, and then I have to target in the middle of that, so Navi targets Ganon. And then I have to hit C up on the correct frame to cancel the last frame of the crouch stab, and that's what lets the glitch work. So I'll try it once really fast, and if it doesn't work, I'll run like hell, because Ganon will kill me in one hit. So I have to be really careful here. It's also worth noting that you cannot crouch stab without a shield, and shield, like I said, is very useful. Okay, here we go. If I miss it, I'm just gonna run between his legs, I think. I got it. Okay, so you can see I have this detached stick hitbox just completely wrecking Ganon. 3 hits and he's down. The reason he went down so fast in the first phase is because you're not supposed to have the Master Sword at this part of the game. And remember, Deku Stick does same damage as the Master Sword. So like everything you have does like 1 damage to him, except the stick, which still does full Master Sword damage. Okay, there we go. Got it again. This time it takes more hits because he has more health. Notice that I can also walk right between his legs because Child Link's so short. Adult Link has to roll. Alright, I'll let you know when it's time. It's coming up soon. Now. So yeah, 22:24 was that? Pretty good time. I'm satisfied with that, especially for a marathon run. That was pretty good. I'm thinking of making a tutorial for this run for beginners in case you wanted to beat the game in under half an hour. It's really not that bad. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that run. And remember, there are other categories for this game that play more of the game, so don't think that I just ruined your childhood, even though I did. But yeah.
Great job, Cosmo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful job.
Awesome run.